That was at our St. Charles campus. And I tell you what, if you didn't get a chance this year, in a couple of years, we want to encourage you to go ahead and do it and go check out Journey to Bethlehem. And along with the Dapta family here at the Troy campus, wrap about on both campuses. I just want to say thank you to all of you who took part of the events, you know, that we're trying to do to reach out the community. And as we do that, let's just go right into what we need to talk about today. We need to close this series that we have been in on the subject of joy. And the series is called Put a Bow on It. Because you can, when we talk about Christmas, usually we believe that what brings joy is presents, but in, you know, the gatherings and the fun. But really, we found out that it's beyond the presents and the gatherings. The joy is brought not by circumstances that change, but by eternal circumstances. And one of the things that we talk about is how God's love, God's power, and just the fact that He sent Jesus give us joy. And today, just like the kids were listening, we were listening to, we can have joy because God's gift is for everyone. It isn't just simple truth, but I want to talk about that for a little bit. And I was thinking, many of you, when you came through the doors, you were taking, someone took your picture, and by the way, they're going to be here on the tree, so you can pick them up right after service. And if you didn't get your Polaroid with your family, you're welcome to do it right after service and take it home just as a memory that you were here with us in 2016 at Christmas. But here's the thing about pictures. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in 2012, there were 380 billion pictures taken. 380 billion pictures, and that's roughly. And that number grows every year. In fact, some of the studies say that, and the statistics say that we take more pictures in 1 hour nowadays than the number of pictures that were taken in the 1800s, which the pictures, which is when pictures were invented. And so, you know, we love pictures, and I always find myself after Christmas, I don't know about you, but with dozens of pictures of the kids, usually opening their presents, and you always want to catch a precious moment. But what ends up being is just like a bunch of heads looking away, not paying attention to the camera. And when you try to get your family, I don't know how many of you do family pictures each year, but those can be a challenge, as many of you can relate. I'm going to show you some of our family pictures that I thought, man, we only had a couple, and there's a reason why. Like this one, you know, we couldn't get him to focus on the camera, and then we tried, you know, multiple times, and here's the next one. It was Isaac's best friend there for a while, his thumb, and then that, I think it was a different year actually, that we took one with my in-laws, and that tells you what it went like. It was with the grandkids. You know, we couldn't get really anyone to focus. And that's the way that it goes many times. But here's the other thing about pictures. That we all love pictures, but here's the thing. You love them if you know the person that's in the picture. You love them if you have a relationship with the person. And I feel like many times Christmas in this season is almost like a picture. It's like you have in your head this idea about Christmas. You think that, you know, it needs to be in a certain house, maybe just with, you know, with the fireplace going and certain music, and you have certain food that you like, and you have certain people you want to be around, and we almost paint this picture in our heads that we don't know, you know, what it would be like if it was changed. But I want to tell you, the difference between Christmas and a picture is that God in reality wants more than just a picture in our heads. He wants more than just a festivity. In fact, I don't know about you, but I'm going to show you a few first pictures. Have you ever wondered what the first pictures look like? Let me show you first the first digital photograph. In 1957, Kodak took the first digital photograph. It was actually a scan. It was a square, so that's Instagram ready, for those of you who do Instagram, and it was just that. The first selfie by Robert Cornelius was taken in 1839. And he had to stand there for an entire minute without moving. I mean, imagine if you try to take a family picture, with a camera that you have to stand there for a minute for it to capture your image. The first image of a person ever taken, in 1838, it was taken of that street. And if you see at the bottom where the trees are, bottom left, you see a person that was getting his shoes polished. He was the only one that was able to stand there for long enough to be captured. Everybody else walked. It's not that the street was empty. It's just the only person that was there long enough to be captured on camera. And here is actually the world's first photograph. It was in 1826. Now, that camera had to sit there for 8 hours, which is why all you can see is two buildings. It was out of someone's window. It was actually Joseph Nipsey, a French inventor, really. And the camera had to be there 8 hours. Now, why am I showing you a bunch of first pictures? Because I really believe that pictures are something cool. It's something that we all do to cherish memories. And like I was telling you, I think that many times we take Christmas as a picture in our lives every year of what we think that Christ did for us. But here's the thing about that first picture that you just saw. What would you do if you had news of something that would revolutionize completely the world? If that person, Joseph Nipsey, the first one to set a camera and actually capture, the outside world on paper, or in fact, in this case, it was a piece of metal. What would you do if you would have known that his invention was going to change the world in many different ways, was going to give us the ability down the road to see what we call now video. It was going to just completely change. I'm going to tell you what he did. He knew that this was big. And he tried to go to the English Empire, he tried to go to the French Empire, and no one would listen to him. And so when we talk about messages, we always, especially messages that are important, we always think about going to the people that are important, to the people that have leverage, that will listen to us, that will be able to help us change or do something about it. And here's what God says that he did. Here's what God did. In Luke 2, verses 8 through 20, we see that the message of Jesus, the news of his son being born, was sent to the shepherds. And I've always wondered, I don't know about you, but I've always wondered, why didn't God go to the teachers of the law? Why didn't he go to the religious leaders? And when we look at the shepherds, really going to the shepherds was, by human standards, one of the worst possible moves that he could have ever made. So shepherds were, what we consider now blue-collar workers, right? The people that, didn't have it all together, people that actually couldn't keep a lot of the traditions in the Jewish world. In fact, it was, they couldn't keep the Sabbath, and because they couldn't keep the Sabbath, they were considered impure people that, were not putting God first, in a sense. And so the shepherds were some of the lowest of the low in the society of Israel. In fact, a shepherd's word, I didn't know this, a shepherd's word wouldn't even be taken in legal matters. It was not accepted as official in legal matters. They represented all the people that needed to be cleansed. And here's what God did. He went to those people and he just told them the message of the gospel first. The reason why we can't have joy today is because God's story is for everyone. That means that no matter where you are, no matter where you have come from, no matter what you have done, God's story of Christmas is for you. But to God, Christmas is more than a story. It's more than just a picture. It's more than just a moment in time. In fact, for God, the story of Christmas was developing just at the very beginning, was on a night when Joseph and Mary had Jesus, but it was just the beginning. The Bible says in John, I'm just going to read a couple of scriptures for you. John 3:16 says that for God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through Him. And so, when we look at this story of Christmas, we see that God doesn't discriminate. And you know what's really interesting is that even though it's such a simple truth, today, just like a picture that we have, when I ask you to picture the story of Christmas, or if I ask you, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes and picture the first Christmas that you can remember. And I want you to think about some of the things that you can remember, maybe. Maybe you can recall a certain smell. I know that there are things that my grandmother and my mother always cook. Maybe it is, a certain show that you guys always used to watch. Maybe it's just a certain food or a family member that would always do something, a tradition that you had as a family. And when we think of Christmas, we always go back to that picture, maybe. You always go back to there. But here's what God is trying to tell you. The picture is only important if there is a relationship. Just like for all of us. The only reason why we consider these little pieces of paper important is because there's people in them that we love. And the only way that you will consider the picture of Christmas that you have in your head important is if you have a relationship with a person there. God chose the shepherds for a couple of different reasons. One, because it brought joy to them. To know that no matter who you are, you can receive the story of Christmas. Two, to humble the religious leaders. So that's a warning to all of us, if you consider yourself religious, to be careful, because God is looking for people who are truly willing to seek Him. In fact, for those people that say that, God did it because He wanted not religious people, but wanted people far from Him to come close to Him. He did it because it encouraged Joseph and Mary, and He did it because it glorified Him. When the shepherds went and met baby Jesus, they went back praising and glorifying God, for they had found everything the way that He had said. And so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. At the end of this service, and we're almost finished, here's what happens usually, right? So you go home to your family and friends, you travel and then you get home, and you're going to celebrate over tonight and tomorrow. But let me tell you this, at the end of the day, we're going to take the ties off, we're going to slip the shoes off, the food's going to be gone, the house is going to be a mess, the trash cans will be full, the presents will be put aside, tossed to the side, the brand new presents that you just got from your kids, it will be probably lost or broken in a few days or in a couple of weeks. And all that you're going to have left is another picture in your head. One more Christmas, 2016. And here's what I'm going to ask you to do. It is not the picture itself that matters. It is not the event itself, but the relationship that you have with the person that started all this. And His name is Jesus. The scene of Christmas really wasn't the important part of the story of Jesus, but it's what it turned into. It was the fact that there was a precious life that was extinguished for your sake and my sake that matters. And so, I wonder what the shepherds would have thought if they would have known that 2,000 years later, the story that they got to tell, right on the hills of Bethlehem, was still going to be told all over the world, all across the world, in fact. In a small town, on a cold night, like you and I have right now, cold for me at least, I know some people think it's warm right now, that in a town called Troy, Missouri, they would have said, Troy, what? But even then, the shepherds didn't know and didn't realize the impact that it was going to have. So as you celebrate Christmas, here's the only thing that I'm going to ask you to do different. Because every time we listen to God's Word, we need to do something about it. If we don't do something about God's Word, then God's Word is not doing what it's supposed to do. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to not think about the picture, the perfect picture of Christmas that we all want. I want you to ask you and to consider the relationship that you have with what Christmas is all about, with Jesus. And so as you celebrate, I'm going to ask you in the midst of your busyness, in the midst of food preparation, to take some time tonight and tomorrow. If you have kids, if you have friends, if you have family that do not know the story of Jesus, maybe you can do something to tell them about it. Maybe you can tell, like Aaron was saying, how his family, his great-grandmother, made sure that he knew what Christmas was all about. Maybe we can do the same with our kids, with our family, with our friends. Maybe in the next few days, it's time for you to go back to work, to go back to school, and ask, hey, what do you do for Christmas? How do you celebrate Christmas? And maybe it's a perfect chance for you to say, hey, you know what I do? Here's what we do at my house, and here's why. And maybe in those conversations, you'll be able to share just like the shepherds 2,000 years ago. Us lowly people that maybe don't have much influence, can make a difference if we just all understand that we can have joy because God's story is for everyone. And here's what's important about it. The shepherd said in Luke chapter 2, verse 10. See, the angel said, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. He is the Savior. He is the Sovereign. He is Christ the Lord. And He has been born. Aaron's going to come up, and here's what I'm going to ask him to do. Would you stand up with me? And here's how the message of the gospel is spread. It's one person at a time. Here's where many times we get it wrong. We think that a program, we think that a message, we think that a video is going to do it. And here's what it comes down to. It really is about relationship. It's about modeling Christ. So I'm going to ask my family if they want to come up here. And we're going to show you with a candle. And we're going to show you how to light up. Actually, we're going to start lighting them up here. And we're going to pass them back. So, Isaac. So here's how we do it. Lily, you want to stand up here with me, guys?